If you stopped using EFT because you weren't getting the results you thought you would, or you aren't yet using EFT, today is the day this could all turn around for you. So get ready to have a breakthrough. Hi, my name is Dr. Rossanna Massey, and welcome to this video. This video is dedicated to helping you get started, whether you're a dropout who's looking at EFT again, or this is your first time. What you're going to learn in this video is how to avoid the #1 most common mistake in EFT, not knowing how and not knowing where to start. And you'll be able to do it in a way that feels comfortable to you, as a natural reflection of yourself to help you accomplish everything you've been looking for that made you reach out and listen to this video series to begin with. Before you do anything else, make sure to download our personal peace procedure formula so you can follow along. It's just below this video. Now, I don't know how much longer we're going to be leaving this gift up, so don't wait to grab your copy. And if you're a total newbie, click the link below, tapping where, how, and why, for a quick and simple overview and explanation and demonstration of the basic EFT tapping, as well as some of the science behind it. Let's talk about your successful use of EFT. Let's talk about the things that need to make sense to you. You don't want to fumble through learning this because you'll get frustrated and drop out, because every successful beginning starts with a successful foundation that's simple to use at any time. There's a reason you're watching this video. That's because maybe you're looking to solve a long-standing issue with your personal life or your health, or you just don't think you have a problem to work on personally, but you really want to help other people. Or you're just curious like I was, and you want to learn what the heck this stuff is all about. As you know, my name's Dr. Rossanna Massey, and for the last decade in EFT, my specialty in serious diseases and pain syndromes, I've helped thousands of people and clients from around the world with their unresolved emotional blockages. Having been in clinical practice since 1992, my patients already trusted me, thank goodness, and they permitted me to practice EFT on them for serious diseases and chronic pain syndromes, and even acute conditions. I even worked with my husband's patients, especially the ones who seemed to be mystery cases, all with obvious, unbelievable results, hundreds of them. It was mind-blowing. The creator of EFT is an amazing man by the name of Gary Craig, and I had the further honor of working with him personally for several years. I've also written many articles on my experiences with EFT, and I'm an academically certified EFT practitioner through Gary Craig. I've trained thousands of students on the foundational levels of EFT in workshops and seminars, so I can say this with a lot of certainty. There's never been a faster way of working on yourself more effectively, with truly lasting results. And there's never been a time when more evidence suggests that traditional therapies and drugs are failing us miserably. There's never been a greater time to be your own expert healer. These are truly exciting times for learning and accepting that, well, maybe there is more to your health than meets the eye. If you look at it for what it is, EFT is an amazing self-help tool. And the tools to help you build a happier and healthier life just weren't there a couple of decades ago. Frankly, there were a lot of dependency on practitioners, and the exposure to self-help training just wasn't there. But now you have access to deep and lasting healing. Past clients have told me they wish they would have learned about this years ago. It would have saved them so much time and suffering, emotional and physical. They would have been so much happier, so much sooner. But everything on its own time. And that's what this video series is all about. It's about showing you how to stay on track, to avoid the common mistakes and pitfalls, and to give you a blueprint for attaining knowledge, gaining personal power, and achieving real personal peace. Okay, now let's remedy that #1 problem we talked about in the last video. And that's not knowing where to begin, being overwhelmed. So here's the fix. The very cleanest way to proceed is the personal peace procedure, period. We'll dive into that in just a moment. But before we do, if you've watched the first video in this series, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. And if you left a comment or a question, I really appreciate it. Most of the teaching I do is in a classroom with people I can see and touch. So it's really important for me to engage with you through comments. So I know that what I'm teaching here is making a difference for you. If you missed the last video, I highly recommend that you stop this video right now and watch it. You can see the link to watch it above, and it's loaded with valuable information that will start you off right. And what you get there will help this video make a little more sense. So go ahead and watch it right now, and I'll be back right here when you get here. Okay, I'm back. Now on that video, we covered 3 most common mistakes beginners make that often lead them to become EFT dropouts. Trying to be perfect, not being specific enough with issues and memories, and getting overwhelmed and confused as to where and how to begin. So check out that last video if you haven't already done that. The link is on this page because I want this to be easier for you. There's also a link to the personal peace procedure template, my gift to you. It's important to get that template to take the guesswork out of creating your list. So let's get into the personal peace procedure so you can see what I'm talking about. It's all about creating a list of past negative experiences. Go through the list one memory at a time, diffusing and eliminating the emotional charge on each one of them. It's what I consider to be the very best way to help yourself without skipping around, getting lost and frustrated, ending up with EFT ADD, or worse, becoming a dropout. This video will save you tons of time and help you avoid the #1 mistake. The benefit of having a list of past negative events will allow you to see patterns pointing to deeper issues, or what we call core issues, and even current events. And believe it or not, working on your core issues will really diffuse each one. You'll positively affect your present self and your relationship to the world and the people around you that you affect. Now, let's show you how to be thorough and specific at the same time. Make a list of every single specific bothersome event that you can remember, and chronological order is best. Start back as far as you can go. Look at past hurts, fears, accidents, events you've witnessed, experienced, sexual, emotional, physical abuse, inappropriate behaviors, moves, people you hate or who you think hate you, embarrassing moments, rejections, betrayals, breakups, deaths, grief. If you have less than 50 events on your list, you're probably over-intellectualizing your past, maybe playing it down. And that's another topic for future videos. It's not unusual for people to find hundreds of events. And if that's you, relax. It doesn't suggest you're damaged. It just means you're human. And now you're ready to set it down for once and for all. If you've come across events that you don't think has much intensity right now, that's okay, because if you still remember them now, they're still important. It doesn't have to be a huge catastrophic event to be important enough to include on your list. As long as there's an emotional response left over from a specific memory, then it's game to work on. They may even surprise you how intense they really are later on. Give each specific event a very specific, focused movie title, a bullet point title. For example, Mom called me fatso at my 10th birthday party. Not, Mom always called me fat. How about this? Laughed at in art class for a torn dress. And not, people always made fun of my clothes. How about this? I was punished for something I didn't do that day. Not, I'm singled out and picked on all the time. The day I stole penny candy, and not, I'm nothing but a dirty, rotten thief. Well, I could go on, but I think you're getting the idea that a specific event has a specific title, not global. And the reason behind the importance of being specific with memories is because that's exactly how life happens to you. It happens one event at a time, one layer at a time. And that's how you check off your list with EFT, one memory at a time. Now, for some people, the personal peace procedure list can take a lot of thought, and for others, like me, it came very easily. Just know that it's not unusual to take time to compile your list, even weeks to think about it. And once you've listed everything you can think of, just set it aside for now. This is going to be the framework for your self-help journey. I'll show you how to approach it in upcoming videos. This way you'll be all set to begin. Just so you know, there's a major pitfall with the personal peace procedure, and it's the biggest reason for not having a life-changing experience with EFT. And we'll discuss that later on in this video. I call it the dread factor. I'll also share why it's important to acknowledge your dread and give you a professional tip how to work around it. I first checked out EFT because I was curious after my husband used it on one of his patients at our clinic, and I saw the stunning results for weeks, even months afterwards. After a few rounds of EFT, it stopped his patient from throwing up every morning for 17 years since the birth of her son. So I had to have a second look. Like almost everyone, I had my reasons. And on that note, to drive home the importance of having an organized plan like the personal peace procedure to get the stuff that really makes you react the way you do today, your core issues, I want to share a story about someone I know very well and who I love very much. She's very close to me and who was deeply sad and profoundly angry, secretly. Here's her story and how EFT changed her life. I promise a happy ending. Ready? Here we go. The dad was a U.S. Navy veteran of both World War II and the Korean War, where he was injured on board a destroyer while loading a gun mount on rough seas. He suffered a closed head injury and was unconscious for 3 weeks in a hospital in Japan. He was hospitalized for 6 months altogether and was medically discharged, leaving him deaf in one ear, missing half a mouthful of teeth on the side he was hit. The only thing my friend ever knew about her dad when she was growing up was that he was in the Navy, a little hard of hearing, and he wore a thing called a partial in his mouth. Her life in this home was mostly hell. The house was never a happy home. There was never any room for happiness because of his rage. Her and her big brother never knew when he would go off, and when he did, it was devastating. If either one of them were being punished, he might go for a full week without speaking to him, and he'd tell him he couldn't stand the sight of him. These childhoods were robbed by unbelievable verbal abuse, name calling, and physical abuse that went just beyond a spanking with a belt. Her big brother took the brunt of her dad's rage. She was always too terrified to defend him, so she just kept quiet so he wouldn't focus on her. Holidays were never safe from his tantrums, and many were ruined. Didn't matter which one. The good news for them was, whenever company came over, he would transform into the jovial, happy father. It was a completely unpredictable and unstable environment. The mom did everything she could to keep the family together and keep the peace, but she was intimidated by him too. My friend used to beg her mom to leave him, but she never could. Her mom did, however, always encourage her to leave home and get an education. It turns out that preparing to go away to college after high school graduation, she applied for grants and loans on her own. Required to fill out financial information, the dad would tell her, "Who do you think you are? What makes you think you can go to college? I'm not sending you. You don't belong there. I'm not filling anything out. It's none of their damn business how much money I make." But that just made her more determined. When she received her college registration form in the mail, in spite of her excitement, the dad ripped it up in front of her face. She just picked up the pieces off the floor and stuffed them into a little envelope, saying a prayer that they still might accept her on the day of registration. The day she left, her father said to her, "You think you're big enough to leave home? Don't you ever ask me for a dime." As she headed toward the door to leave, he said to her, "You're not going anywhere." She spun around and looked at him straight in the eye and said to him, "Watch me." She was 17 years old. Well, she lasted there almost 2 years. She never felt like she belonged there. She felt like she wasn't good enough to be there. She wasn't good enough to pledge a sorority like all the other girls at the dorm, thinking instead, "Who do I think I am? I have no business being here." Thinking, "I'm not very bright. I'm stupid. I'm just a dumbass." You know, it wasn't a very hard decision for her to drop out of school. After that, she set a goal to be hired with the airline industry as a flight attendant. And even though it was really tough in those days to get hired on, by golly, she was hired by Continental Airlines at the age of 19. She never forgot the day she was hired. It gave her a whole new level of self-respect, and it just raised her up. She made a wonderful living being that young and flew domestic and international flights. She loved helping people, learning about different cultures, customs, languages. But her personal life was very lonely. Most of her coworkers were very beautiful women. Some were even past Miss USA contestants. She struggled with body image, comparing herself to them, and that kept her feeling like she didn't fit in. She wasn't good enough there either. And her love life was a mess. Always dating men who were distant and cold and unattainable. During that time, she avoided going home to visit her parents at all costs. During rare visits, she realized that all her rage was lost on her dad. Screaming at him just made her feel awful inside. It didn't accomplish anything or change anything. It just made her feel worse, not better. It was near the end of her flying career that her big brother, estranged from his family, died alone of a drug overdose at the age of 27. Another life experience adding on to her anger and sadness, but now the added burden of guilt. Dreadful. Now I want to share something with you personal. The story I just shared about the family tragedy and the big brother and the dad, actually, that's my story. Eventually, I returned to college, finished my degree, and applied to chiropractic college. Now, chiropractic college is very intense, and I took an accelerated curriculum. And the stress of taking so many classes at once began to trigger painful childhood memories. And it became so distracting that I decided to take that first step and seek counseling. I chose a wonderful therapist. The cognitive behavioral therapy offered an intellectual insight and validation, but also it certainly helped me to be more sensitive and entitled to my emotions. I saw her for several months until we decided the issue was resolved. I certainly felt much better. I felt calmer, better balanced. And I got through the rest of school without a hitch. Turns out, I wasn't so stupid after all. Fast forward to moving back to the Midwest, near my hometown, after almost 20 years of self-exile. Living closer to my parents, being around my dad again, sadly enough, made me realize that the anger I felt inside hadn't changed at all, even with cognitive behavioral therapy. I just live closer to it now. But there's more to this story, and I want to get to the point where I learned about the extraordinary power of EFT and dedicated my life to it. My path went like this. After seeing my husband use EFT experimentally on a problem patient at our clinic and get stunning results, EFT caught my attention. So I read the manual myself. And then I read it again and again. And I started on my own personal peace procedure, but purposely omitted all the past events I already worked on with my therapist back in California. And a funny thing happened along the way. I decided to test cognitive behavioral therapy and make a list of all the things I worked on with my therapist and omitted from my earlier personal peace procedure list. When I guesstimated each intensity level, it was always very low, a 1 or a 2 at most, but for testing's sake, I did it anyway. When I actually tapped on each of these events, the tears that came so quickly, the tightening in my throat, the tightening in my chest. That residual emotional response was enough evidence for me that although it may seem so intellectually, it's not enough just to talk about your problem. The emotional component held within the meridian pathways still needs a portal of exit somewhere. And that's exactly what EFT does. After that, those old memories, the guilt, the pain, the anger, the sadness, were finally laid to rest in peace forever. And I found the closest thing to personal peace I've ever known. I forgave my dad with all my heart, and I did that on my own, using EFT. Many years later, I helped my dad write a letter to the Veterans Administration to apply for 100% disability. And that's when I learned the sad truth about Dad and all the things he went through all those years ago. Unknown to us, this is what his reality was back then. He suffered from daily migraine headaches, blurred vision, bouts of double vision. The worst, in his opinion, was the constant pounding pain in his ears and the shrill, gusting noise of wind that blew relentlessly inside his head 24 hours a day. It interfered with his sleep, and he could only get about 3 hours of sleep a night. A pattern of insomnia that was a constant source of agitation through the rest of his life. He struggled with daily depression, anxiety, and fought back thoughts of suicide. There wasn't a name for it back then when I was a kid. Back then I called it, Dad hates my guts. Now it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm living proof that the negative programming and negative childhood messages can spill over and affect you in later life. Because if I can get over some of the darkest times of my life, I know you can overcome anything. And that's the reason why the personal peace procedure is so valuable, especially if you can go back as far as you can remember and move forward from there. Only then will you get the full benefit, accelerating your transformation into the person you've always imagined yourself being. I initially learned EFT from Gary Craig's clearly written manual, and I just assumed that people would be able to pick it up from my workshops very easily. In reality, I saw otherwise. The truth is, time and again, my past workshop attendees would confess that they weren't using it as much as I'd hoped they were. Some, not at all. Whenever I had the opportunity in private, I'd ask them to show me how they'd been approaching their issue. And it was always very surprising to me to hear one of three things. And I would hear them consistently. They were either too global and not specific enough, or they stopped working on themselves altogether because they were afraid to say the wrong thing. They weren't saying it as perfectly as they thought I did. I couldn't believe it. Another common mistake would be that they were saying positive setup phrases, positive reminder phrases, how they wanted to feel, not what they were actually feeling inside. It's like a piece of candy in your mouth, leaving nothing of substance when it's gone, just a passing sweetness. So even though they had attended a workshop or two and learned the mechanics of EFT, they had fallen victim to what I diagnosed as CMS, the common mistake syndrome, and I had to find a cure. Actually, there are a number of common pitfalls and blind spots that can get in the way of real success and stop you from having the mind-blowing results you really want. Earlier, I mentioned what I call the dread factor, one of the biggest, if not the biggest pitfall. A common reason some people put off getting started with the personal peace procedure, and even EFT in general, is because a part of them dreads having to think back on their past. And I've even had clients actually get really pissed off at having to go back and give power to their past, denying that their past is any reason for why things aren't working for them today. Now, I'll share with you why it's important to acknowledge your dread. By acknowledging it, you can focus on it with EFT and eliminate that pitfall for the resolution between you and your past. Acknowledging the problem has always been a core point in classic EFT, and tapping on the whole issue of dread will be necessary to begin seriously constructing your personal peace procedure list. Okay, let's talk about blind spots. They're one of the drivers behind people seeking out EFT practitioners for help. You can't address them on your own because you can't see them. Even EFT practitioners have them. In over a decade of working with clients, I noticed that almost everyone has two common major blind spots, and they're almost always overlooked and always a big surprise once you can see them. The first of them is the inability to recognize how much anger you actually have and how much of it is stuffed down. And believe it or not, there's a lot of physical tip-offs you can have that maybe you're not even aware of. And while we don't have time to get into it on this video, there's a whole list of other cues for anger I'll be sharing with you in upcoming videos that's going to really help you recognize where it is. The other blind spot you need to be aware of is so huge that once you know how to address it, you're going to have results beyond your wildest dreams. This technique is very powerful and takes more explanation than I can cover on these videos, but I can tell you this. As we learn to master the second step together, you'll be helping yourself in more ways than you can imagine, and other more advanced concepts as well. So in the next video, we'll talk about more pitfalls and blind spots and a blueprint that can help you avoid them. Anyhow, back to the story of the workshop attendees. I was surprised at the track record, and after all my efforts, I decided to design and test a far better way to teach people how to approach EFT in a way that felt more natural for them, but I wanted to do it in a way that I wasn't completely reinventing the wheel. I thought about how people usually tell their troubles and problems to friends and family members. So now I'm excited about launching EFT1, my membership website. It's a carefully worked out system from my years of experience of instruction, created to help even more people. EFT1 is for teaching everyday people. You'll learn how to do it on yourself without feeling like you have to be perfect about it or pattern after some expert. And you'll be able to do it independently. And it's empowering to be able to work on yourself on your own. And not only that, since I have over 2 decades of expertise in dealing with the underlying emotions of serious diseases, pain syndromes, and a variety of health issues, common ones included, I'm going to share with you my approaches to them that are tried and true. And best of all, you will be introduced to the premiere of Dr. Rossanna's protocol, a direct route into cracking your own healing code. It's awesome. Now, if you're back again from dropping out, or you haven't been exposed to EFT before, I'm going to lay it all out for you. I'm going to walk you through the blueprint, show you how you can consistently count on yourself so you can learn how to speak EFT fluently in honest conversations with yourself. And you'll be doing it without compromising your own natural expression of yourself. I'm going to show you how you can quickly gain the mastery of EFT that you want so you can have consistent results. If you knew you could count on yourself to realize a healthy inner alignment with your true purpose, real congruence, like so many of my former clients, how would you feel? And having a user-friendly system is what this is all about. And that's why I made the next video on this topic, the blueprint. So watch your inbox for when we release this video. You don't want to miss this because it's going to show you the path to creating the success you want. And in a few days, we're going to be opening our EFT1 website. This is the one step at a time learning where you'll get everything you need for consistent results. In the meantime, thank you so much for being with me today. Be sure to download the Personal Peace Procedure template below this video. Do this now if you haven't already done so. I don't know how long we're going to be leaving this link up. I just don't want you to miss out. And if you got value from our time together today, please click the like button right below this video. It helps me to know that you're benefiting from what I'm sharing with you here. And also, share this video if you think other people might benefit from it. And also, there'll be a random drawing just like last time. More on that in a minute. Well now, we've gone over some of the common mistakes and given you some tips on how to avoid them. And we've gone over the personal peace procedure now, giving you a valuable template to get you started. If you've got any questions about the personal peace procedure list in general, be sure to ask them in the comment box. I'm happy to respond, and I'll answer as many questions as I can throughout the day. So watch your inbox for when we release this video. You don't want to miss this because it's going to show you the path to mastering EFT on your own terms. And in a few days, we'll be launching the EFT1 website. This is going to be your home for learning EFT, one step at a time, one memory at a time. The path to creating the results you want. Right now, what I'd love for you to do is scroll down and leave me a comment. Hit that Facebook like button and then leave a comment and tell me which one of the things I'm going to be offering you interests you. Just how's it going to help your life? Go ahead and leave a comment and I'll randomly pick one person's comment, and that winner will get a session with me. One memory at a time EFT session, super powerful and focused, no charge, with me, Dr. Rossanna. But you have to hit that like button for your comment to be included in this drawing. So go ahead, hit the like button and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. You just might be the one. And also, I'll see you on the next video where I'll walk you through our blueprint to give you the grand overview of EFT1 and show you what it's going to be like if you come along with me, Dr. Rossanna. And if you're a dropout, this is your chance to stop the ADD and get your GED in EFT.